Making headlines tonight. Apologies from Minister Ishmael for the Trident card delay as the Electoral and Boundaries Commission ramps up production. The economy on a path for double-digit growth. A survey finds people are currently less likely to take the COVID-19 vaccine. And coming up in sports, Bajan Gems warned qualification for netball's World Cup is not a given.
Broadcasting from our studios in the Pine St. Michael, this is CBC NewsNight, starting now.
I'm Shane Jones, leading the news at 7. An apology tonight from Minister of Industry, Innovation, Science and Technology, Minister Ishmael, regarding the slow distribution of the new National Trident Identification Card. Speaking during a news conference at Baobab Tower this afternoon, the minister and officials from the Electoral and Boundaries Commission gave the assurance that production and distribution will be significantly ramped up in the coming weeks and months. Ryan Broom has that story.
The minister says while there have been delays, the number of Barbadians who have been registered so far is now well past the 100,000 mark and climbing, and he notes the government takes identity seriously and that the government has taken as long as it has so far because it wants to ensure everything is done right.
To date, approximately 150,000 citizens have already been registered, with many more being registered daily, and several thousand people have already received their cards. Despite these successes, I regret that we have not been able to keep up with the planned schedule for delivery of cards for each and every citizen. And I therefore sincerely apologize for disappointing my fellow Barbadians who were keen to be amongst the first to collect their new ID cards.
Minister Ishmael adds that many of the delays have been linked to ensuring that security features and other unique aspects of the card are compliant with international standards.
There are several subsystems to the Trident ID system, some of which required custom development to ensure a robust identity infrastructure that is compliant with the acknowledged international standards of identity management. Each of those subsystems are required to work seamlessly together for the collection of registration data, validation of identity credentials, card processing and production, quality assurance, all the way through to delivery and pinning of cards. With that, it must be noted that it is envisioned that over time, the National Digital ID will become the cornerstone for all government services and create opportunities for new methods of service delivery.
He also answered questions about the overall cost of the card program so far, noting that government is committed to transparency with the project.
For the benefit of those who are genuinely desirous of knowing the costs associated with this project, MIST has invested $10,434,601.99 to be exact, spread over the last 2 financial years to deliver the Trident ID card to the people of Barbados. And for the many, many citizens who are actually now holding that card in their hands, that tangible evidence of the responsible utilization of your taxpayers' dollars and my taxpayers' dollars. As you look at it, the expenditures I just stated works out to a per card cost of less than $35.
And Chief Electoral Officer Angela Taylor has acknowledged that the number of cards actually delivered so far is still relatively low at just under 7,000 when compared to the 137,561 Barbadians already registered. But she is confident with the acquisition of additional printers and quality assurance machines, those numbers can be boosted in time for the March 2023 projected end of the old card.
At this point in time, I have 3 shifts working on printing the ID cards so that persons are coming on at 6 in the morning and working till 2, persons 2 till 10, and another set from 10 till 2 in the morning. So based on the increase in the number of shifts, the number of persons doing the actual printing, and the additional resources we are expecting to increase the printing capacity, we still anticipate that we will be there or thereabouts.
In the meantime, Barbadians can continue to register for the card online and at the 13 listed centers until the end of this month. Ryan Broom, CBC News.
Thanks, Ryan. The local economy is on course to meet its double-digit growth projection target by year-end. And with government's new economic plan, Barbados could defy new negative global forecasts issued by the International Monetary Fund for 2023. Economic advisor to the Barbados government, Dr. Kevin Greenidge, gave this latest assessment to CBC News. He's currently part of the Mia Motley administration's team in Washington for what is the first in-person annual meeting of the IMF and the World Bank in 3 years. The IMF, in a new report, slashed its global growth forecast to around 3%, citing economic pressure from the war in Ukraine, high energy and food prices, and sharply higher interest rates. Dr. Greenidge, however, says the new Barbados Economic Recovery and Transformation Program 2022 will help create the necessary fiscal space to reach the 10% target set for this year and projections for 5% growth next year.
We are still expecting strong growth for this year, 10 to 10.5, okay? Because remember that in 2020, the economy shrank by 14%, then it didn't do much in 2021. So coming from a smaller base, so you get this big boost in terms of growth. But we didn't get that because of the various infrastructure projects that are going on, the recovery in tourism predominantly, and things are happening. So we still expect to grow by 10.5%. The governor will give his report next week, and I'm sure it will be something along those lines. Having grown by 11.5%, 10% this year or so, we expect. Then into the medium term, we want to maintain an average of 5%. We're trying to get to 5%.
Dr. Greenidge explains this new BERT program will build a new level of investor confidence in the local economy. This, he says, will help to sustain the growth expectations going into the new year.
The BERT program builds in for government, taking government investment up. Back then in 2006, government investment was like 4%, 4.5%. It came down to about 1% now. Last year, we brought it back up to 4.2%. And the government intends to push it to get about 5%. With that level of government investment, and then we built in an expectation that the private sector will raise their investment from 1 billion to about 1.9 billion, and foreign investment will rise. All that is in the BERT program. So that 5% growth rate we expect is predicated on the fiscal space that government is using to grow the capital, and that is the BERT program. And that's how the IMF program is built on. And then the private sector stepping up.
People are now less likely to take the COVID-19 vaccine. Those are results of a vaccine hesitancy survey by UNICEF, which was presented to Minister of Health and Wellness Ian Gooding-Edgell and other high-ranking medical officials today. Trevor Thorpe was at the UN headquarters in Worthing, Christchurch.
Barbados has sustained control of the COVID-19 virus. The revelation from Minister of Health and Wellness Ian Gooding-Edgell as he addressed the presentation ceremony for the second COVID-19 Vaccine Hesitancy Survey Report 2022, attended by UN, UNAID, and high-ranking local medical officials. In expressing his thanks to UNICEF and to USAID, the minister told the ceremony at the UN headquarters the challenges of vaccine hesitancy will call for a political commitment and the financial investment of the private and civil society sectors.
The COVID-19 Vaccine Hesitancy Survey 2021 for Barbados indicated that the limited uptake of COVID-19 vaccines has been an ongoing challenge, hampering the response to the pandemic across the Eastern Caribbean sub-region. We in Barbados are very aware that engaging with communities and persuading individuals to change their habits and behavior is a linchpin of a public health success. Addressing vaccine hesitancy is no different. I am pleased to note that under the journal findings in the report of the 7 countries surveyed, Barbados was one of the least vaccine hesitant.
Chief Medical Officer, the Most Honourable Dr. Kenneth George, in his remarks, said children have not been the drivers of the pandemic, but acknowledged a survey of the protocols for schools was coming, but there is no more mandate on mask wearing.
We have a few, for example, the prisons and the geriatric hospital. Why? Because they are vulnerable populations. But, and presently, we also have mask wearing in the schools. We are examining the evidence, though, and we will be making a pronouncement at another time.
Cadres was commissioned to do the survey. Director Peter Wickham gave some background on the elements of the exercise.
The Vaccine Hesitancy Index, and we now get into the core of it, is one of the key features of both studies. The Vaccine Hesitancy Index was developed in association with UNICEF specifically for this purpose, because we wanted to be able to track some of the critical information in relation to the issue of vaccine hesitancy. The methodology is pretty well spelled out, and I'm not going to go into that here. But essentially, we have a score and we have an ideal. So the score can range from let's say 10 to 1. The idea is that you want to have a low a score as possible.
During the study, social media emerged as a power, and government and other officials have been encouraged to harness that power and challenge those alternative outlets which may seek to promote myths and misinformation. Trevor Thorpe, CBC News.
The Barbados Government Information Service has received its Caribbean Broadcasting Union Media Awards after winning in 3 categories at the recently held CBU Caribbean Media Awards in Trinidad and Tobago. They were presented by CBU Secretary General Sonia Gill at the CBU Secretariat in Barbados. The BGIS won in the categories coverage of the COVID-19 pandemic with COVID stories 246, not the common cold, best public service spot with COVID-19 contact types explained, and digital coverage of the COVID-19 pandemic, COVID-19 story, the mathematics of a virus. Winners in the category coverage of the COVID-19 pandemic were Shamko Pillay, Sharon Austin Gill, Moore, Joel Boyne, Carl Allman, and Ian Innes. The recipient of the award for digital coverage of the COVID-19 pandemic was Esther Jones, while Paula Harper Grant and Michael Alcock won in the best public service spot. Speaking during the brief presentation ceremony, Acting Chief Information Officer Ian Innes noted although the BGIS was not present at the first in-person award ceremony coming out of the pandemic, it was a pleasure to have learned they were winners in the 3 categories.
When you think of the fact that out of 258 submissions, GIS was up there alongside CCN, TV6, RJR Gleaner, Great Belize Productions, and other regional entities, speaks volumes to the quality of work produced within the department.
Meanwhile, Secretary General Gill pointed out the Caribbean Media Awards was approaching 3 decades of service to the region, and the CBU, which was established in 1970, was always about development of the region through media practice and the development of media practitioners.
What these winning entries demonstrated was not only excellence in their production and conception and in their execution, but also in addressing the real needs of audiences identified.
2 men, including one who escaped police custody last week, have been added to the police wanted list. They are O'Neil Holder, alias Neely, who escaped police custody last Thursday, and 19-year-old Jafari Anthony Ramsey Holder's last known address is Cumberbatch Road, Fairfield Road, Black Rock, St. Michael. He's approximately 5 feet 5 inches tall and of brown complexion and slim build. Jafari Ramsey, meanwhile, who goes by the alias Fari, is wanted for questioning in connection with serious criminal matters. His last known address is Block 12, Silver Hill, Christchurch. Holder and Ramsey are advised they can present themselves to the police accompanied by an attorney at law of their choice. Anyone knowing their whereabouts is asked to contact police emergency at 211, Crime Stoppers at 1-800-8477 or the nearest police station. Coming up, more electric buses coming to the island. Next year, Barbados will acquire another 10 electric buses. Deputy Prime Minister Santia Bradshaw provided the update during her contribution to debate on a resolution on the Barbados Economic Recovery and Transformation Plan 2022. Discussions are ongoing with the Ministry of Energy in this regard. Ms. Bradshaw, who is also the Minister of Transport Works and Water Resources, says Barbados' electric bus fleet has made the country the envy of the region.
That has made us the first destination, I believe, in this part of this hemisphere that has such a substantial fleet of electric buses. So we didn't just put the money into somebody's hand and not tender the contract and not just lick out the money, sir. We understood that people were having a problem getting a bus and getting public transportation in this country, and we understood that we had a responsibility to the people of this country to make wrong things right again.
Government is working to pinpoint where its strengths and weaknesses lie in the event of a disaster. Minister of State in the Prime Minister's office, Senator Dr. Chantal Munro-Knight, made the revelation as she led off debate on the Catastrophe Fund Amendment Bill in the Upper House. She says this, along with a recent audit done by the Ministry of Housing, will help the state in its effort to build resilience in the country's housing stock.
The government is working under a World Bank program to build up what we are calling a resilience map. And what that resilience map is intended to do is to be able for us to look and see the key areas of resilience across the island, match those where we have projects and programs and initiatives or lack thereof, to ensure that the government can then have a long-term view to see where it needs to improve in the context of resilience across this island.
One of the amendments to the legislation will allow eligible homeowners and small business owners to access the catastrophe fund before rather than after a disaster. Dr. Munro-Knight says government is seeking to move away from a reactive approach.
The previous act said the purpose of the fund, the previous the purpose of the fund is to provide financial aid to eligible persons and qualifying businesses in need of such aid as a result of a catastrophe. The catastrophe happened and then the fund kicks in. Then you can access the fund as a result of a catastrophe. That, Mr. President, is what I'm saying is the reactive approach that we are seeking in the context of this amendment to be able to correct.
The amended legislation makes it possible for money from the fund to be paid directly to government ministries, departments and statutory boards charged with providing social services. However, Independent Senator Kevin Boyce has suggested this be expanded to agencies within the region.
So we have the RSS, we have the mechanisms which deal with certain emergencies, and maybe this is an opportunity for this type of legislation to go regional and utilize the synergies so that we have Caribbean companies who are identified to come to each other's aid in the time of crises. Because if everyone in Barbados is impacted, we certainly cannot help each other. But I think that this provides the framework for such a future step.
Sports time now, and we head over to the sports studio and say a very good evening to Damien Best.
Yeah, good evening to you, Shane. Good evening to our viewers and listeners. Well, the Barbados senior women's netball team has been put on notice. Come prepared to fight. That's the word coming out of Kingston ahead of the America's Netball World Cup qualifier set to start on Sunday at the National Indoor Sports Center in Jamaica. In an interview with CBC Sports, President of America's Netball, Marva Bernard, says while Barbados is the hot favorites, other teams have sought international expertise to prepare for the qualifier and future development. Only the two top teams will qualify for the Netball World Cup, set for South Africa in July 2023.
Trinidad and Tobago will be using Sue Hawkins from Australia, and Sue has such pedigree. I watched Sue turn around England Roses to where they are now. She's going to be helping Trinidad and Tobago. Jamaica's national coach, former national coach Mineth Reynolds, is helping St. Lucia. Cayman Islands has a technical director from England. She has been with them for some time now, and that's also good. The fact that the presidents of these countries have brought in outside help. I preached the song. We collaborate off court and we compete on court. So I'm looking forward to some closely contested matches because everybody wants to dethrone. I say it without fear of reservation or contradiction that everybody wants to dethrone Barbados and Trinidad, who went the last time.
Well, the Gems' first match is against Cayman Islands on Sunday before they return to the court to battle St. Lucia on the 17th, the USA on the 18th, then a doubleheader on the 19th against Grenada and St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Bernard says the round-robin format will be challenging for the players and officials.
the teams that are participating say they don't play enough, so they want round robin. Round robin in this short window of time is not easy. It was not easy to organize. But the people wanted round robin. The 8 countries said they want round robin, so we are playing round robin. 36 matches, 9, 8, 7, 36 matches. What they will have to do, they will bring 15 players, and hopefully if nothing happens, because if one goes down, they can substitute, but that it's not going to be a room for it apply within. World Netball recognizes the challenge with player welfare, and player mean umpires and player. They have assigned another umpire. Normally we would have 10 umpires for a 9-country tournament. World Netball says, okay, this is hard on our officials, and they have added another umpire. But these are some of the things that we have to look at when we take the world stage with this, because I understand the need to play more matches.
The Business Report, brought to you with the compliments of Republic Bank. We're the one for you.
Prime Minister Mia Motley has called for open-minded discussions as the European Union and Caribbean countries attempt to cement closer working relationships. The Prime Minister made the request during the launch of the EU CARIFORUM regional partnerships last evening. She said it's important for countries with shared values to find platforms for partnership and development. However, Ms. Motley believes they must not deny the reality of our world, which is facing a climate crisis, inflation challenges spurred on by the war in Ukraine, and supply chain disruptions started by COVID-19.
Time has passed since the original date that we had all intended to have the post-Cotonou arrangements. 2020 seems like a long time away, especially since we know that in the 2.5 years since, too many millions of people have died from the pandemic, from war, and from climate. What we saw in Europe this summer, in North America this summer, what we saw in Pakistan in recent months of an apocalyptic nature is too much for us to carry on our own. And if ever the world therefore needed solidarity, a good old labor principle, working together, it is now.
The European Union's Commissioner for International Partnerships, Jutta Urpilainen, thanked the Caribbean community for condemning Russia's invasion of Ukraine. She announced a significant injection of funds for the region, given the impact the war has had on food security.
Every minute counts when it comes to a food emergency. And that is why the European Union has just committed 36.5 million euros to alleviate the situation here. So we are giving additional 36.5 million euros to the Caribbean region in order to address food insecurity.
And Minister of State in the Ministry of Energy and Business, Sandra Husbands, is calling for a deepening of multilateralism between the Caribbean and the European Union. She made the call as she welcomed ministers to the joint ministerial meeting and the launch of the Caribbean-EU partnership this morning. She told participants the meeting should provide the signal of an important partnership between CARIFORUM and the European Union.
We as partners have been at these negotiations since Lomé, and we have always been able to resolve many of our sticking points. Clarity has always prevailed. So I see our post-Cotonou agreement as no different, and for this reason, I again thank and welcome the Commissioner to the region as she seeks to answer some of our more pressing questions. I want to reiterate my expectations that our discussions today at this joint ministerial will be pivotal and enable us to achieve cooperation between CARIFORUM and our EU parties.
Time now for the second half in sports. We head back on over to the sports studio, and welcome back, Damien.
Yeah, thanks so much, Shane. Well, Barbadian athletes continue to impress at the Huntsman World Senior Games in Utah after just 2 days of competition. CBC's Sean Green has a full breakdown of the medal count so far.
Beverly Walters won silver in the 50 meters and the 200 meters for women, while Patrick Brown took silver in the 800 meters of the 55 to 59 age group category. Henderson Walters got gold in the 800 meters in the 65 to 69 age group, while Janita Austin collected gold in the discus and silver in the long jump of the women's 65 to 69 age group category. In the 80 to 84 age group for women, Kathy Harper Hall earned gold in the long jump, gold in the 200 meters, and silver in the 50 meters, while Kathy Ann Marshall got silver in the 50 meters of the women's 55 to 59 age group. Wendy Barrow-Smith claimed bronze in the discus of the 60 to 64 age group, while Angela Jackson won a gold in the discus and a silver in the 1500 meter power walk and bronze in the long jump. This is in the 55 to 59 age group category. Fairbank took gold in the 1500 meter power walk and silver in the 200 meters for the 50 to 54 section. John Brooks got silver in the 200 meters and fourth in the 50 meter of the 65 to 69 age group category. Paulette Brooms took silver in the 50 meters of the 70 to 75 age group category. Beverly Brathwaite claimed silver in the 200 meters and the 50 meters for women in the 65 to 69 age group category, while Sandra Murray took gold in the 1500 meter power walk, the 50 meters and the 200 meters. Sean Green, CBC Sports.
That's our news. Good night and be good. Thanks for visiting us. To get more stories like this one, like and subscribe to our YouTube channel.